All right, so good morning. Though some of the titles that I gave myself involve dragon slaying, no dragons were slain this morning. It was a bit too early for that. So I decided instead to join you here and discuss a bit about games. So hopefully I'm not going to bore you with statistics. I specifically I actively chose not to put any graphs or any infographics or any statistics and numbers in the presentation. So hopefully that will be consistent. You can look up whatever statistics about the game industry. I'm just gonna give you certain parameters so you can have a bigger image or a more detailed image about what this industry, what this part of entertainment is like. So currently, just think about it, the game industry is larger than the music and the movie industry combined. Yeah, shocker. Another thing, there are more, let's say, women players than there are under 18-year-olds playing games. You would think that games are a thing for children, and a lot of the discussions when you hear about games, especially some recent events that come back to the old trope of games creating violence, they talk about the games as being a medium for children and that the children are most exposed to it. And that's not exactly true because most of the players are around 35-year-olds. So yeah, these are just some things to shift a bit the perception about this. And having said that, I'm not going to give you any numbers, hopefully. And I would like just to introduce myself and some of the things that I have connected with this domain, with the domain of games throughout the years. So as you can see behind me, I worked for a while, for about 4 years, for a game studio here in Cluj, and I launched some of the almost famous titles that some of you might have heard, but I'm not willing to bet my life on that. These are some of the titles that I was part of the team of launching these games. Together, the team is called Amused Sloth. I know. It sounds more like a job title than a company name, but it got us, let's say, famous. Like whenever we mention this name, people remember it. So these are some of the titles that I worked for. One of them is Disco Dave. This was our greater success. It's a very nice, lovely rhythm game, and very, you need to be on top of your game and to have your reflexes quite, pumped up and high, exactly, in order to play it. It's with disco music, so of course, hence the name. There's another title, Asgard Run, which is about Vikings running towards their own doom and slaying some skeletons. There's another one, Super Pet Hero, that's you have to rescue animals from a crossroad. No idea how they got there, but you get points for that. And obviously, one of the most recent game that we launched. This was we acted as a publisher. It's GoreScript, and that's like a retro shooter game. Maybe if you played games like Doom, this game will give you that Doom plus Minecraft feeling. So it has this big blocky pixels and enemies that you can kill with big blocky guns. All right, so these are some of the things that that I worked on. And obviously, this game let's say, game-like thinking, I also use it in another area. So one of the things that I work with is a company that deals with education for adults, so basically training. More of you would know this area such as training. And one of the things that I do is I design game-like experiences for educational purposes. So having said that, this is going to be, let's say, an arching theme of today, is how do you take and how do you find out what makes the games work, and how you can use the same mechanics maybe in other things, in creative processes, in organizational processes, or maybe just in life, if you get sometimes bored with what you have to do. Like, for example, paying taxes, you can think about it as slaying a dragon, or going to different things. As we all know, the bureaucracy in our country is quite interesting. You can regard your, going and filing different things and paying different taxes as a chain of quests that have an impact in your life, and basically it keeps you on the legal side of issues. All right. So some of the things that we design are game-like experiences that deal with different behaviors and different themes, such as starting from conflict, conflict management, change management, organizational management, entrepreneurship, and we basically design experiences that stimulate different behaviors, and they act like a game environment. So, what is the main thing about games? And how do they manage to create a certain involvement, a certain investment in terms of time and emotion from the player? And it's really interesting. I'm going to go there in a bit. Is that games are the only form of entertainment that give you the opportunity to take decisions and to live with the consequences, or die, but anyway, you experience the consequences. It's the only form of entertainment that provides the player with agency, with control over what he does within the environment, and it allows the player to shape the landscape, to shape the environment around him. So, having said that, games are a very powerful tool, and the way they manage this is not by being on purpose, let's say, educational, or being on purpose, guiding you towards a certain objective. But their purpose is to be entertaining, to stimulate emotion, and to give you a certain path, or certain paths, multiple paths that you can take towards the end goal. So, having said that, I'm going to present some of my gaming experience as, let's say, as I would write it in a resume that I would send to, an HR of some company, in order to hopefully get an interview. And we're going to discuss, and we're going to tell you some of the things that I relate to those. So again, obviously, since I talked about me, I'm going to continue to talk about me as well, or my experience in this. All right. So one of the things that I managed throughout my experience as a player is to successfully colonize the galaxy or multiple galaxies several times. Um, this is, let's say, a very powerful feeling. So you take, your own civilization of, space slugs or, I don't know, cosmic meerkats, and you take it, from, you beat the gravity of your own planet and you go out in space, doing different things and meeting other civilizations and talking with them, eating them, or different things that you can do. So throughout this experience, there are, what the game does is, one of the games that I'm talking about, but there are several, is Stellaris. So this is one of the most recent games that I've played, and it deals with this issue. So one of the things that the game does amazingly is that it gives you that feeling of awe in the beginning of the game, that you are a tiny dot in a huge galaxy. This feeling of awe and it's a bit scary. So the game gives you baby steps in order to make you feel confident to get out of your own solar system. First, you build some, small factories on your planet or some small farms. Then you colonize your own home system by building some mines or some research stations. And then you go out into the dark beyond. And hopefully there is this feeling of being anxious or maybe afraid that you're going to meet other civilizations and you don't know how to relate to them. So for a while, you think you're alone. But after several turns, the game puts you in front of the situation of a first contact. How do you deal with this? Are they like me? Are they going to like me? Would I like them for dinner? So there are questions that put you on a very, let's say, existential and metaphysical kind of level. And you wonder, how is this going to fare? So later on, you see that the galaxy is a big place. You meet different species. Some of them you ally with, some of them you might go to war with. And there are certain moments in which you feel that, did I take the right decisions? Is this going well for me? Do I have any chance of beating, the big crisis that the game throws at you? And all the decisions, like in terms of management or diplomacy or how you invested your own money, come back to haunt you or to provide results. And this is an amazing feeling because you live with the consequences of your own decisions and they're very active and present within the game. So at one point you might meet a race of killer cyborgs, and because you mistreated your own robots in your own empire, they might be, more willing to kill you. But if you treat your robots and your artificial intelligence really well, and at one point you might just give them citizen rights, this is less likely to happen. So they would be more friendly towards you. So different things that happen while you colonize the galaxy. Another thing, I managed several teams, culturally diverse teams of 10 to 35, usually humans, orcs, elves, but also others. So gnomes as well. Gnomes, let's not forget gnomes. They're small, but they shouldn't be forgotten. This is one other thing that games throw at you. Usually they put, especially multiplayer games, they put inside the game objectives that are nearly impossible to complete as a single person. So this kind of forces people who have different backgrounds, even in real lives, So I've played these games with teenagers in the same team. Teenagers, moms, a father and his son, one guy and one girl who were boyfriend and girlfriend, one from Germany, one from Spain, a lot of Greeks, and they're really fun in all contexts. So a lot of the things about this diversity, it spills from the game into the real life. And we had to kill the big dragon or the big whatever monster, undead monster the game was throwing at us. And we had to be on our top game to know exactly what our strengths and weaknesses are, to time our abilities in a very, very exact manner, and to really be responsible for our own role. So basically, this leads me to the other thing that I managed to do while playing games, to successfully build cross-functional teams. And basically, you have to balance these different roles throughout playing the game. So the mages are good, but they're like a glass cannon. So basically, you just breathe in their general direction and they die. So you need other skill sets and other play types in order to balance this. Another one. This is also about civilization building. And there are games such as SimCity or City Skylines or Civilization that I think they should be required for anybody that plans to work in a public authority, especially at the city halls or whatever institution that deals with building infrastructure and building spaces for other citizens. And obviously, I have experience in balancing budgets of trillions of credits and allocating them towards different areas. Because one of the other thing that the games push you is to take decisions. At one point, you need to invest in science, but if your science is not sustainable, you need to create more resources or move resources to another area. And a successful civilization or organization, it depends, shockingly, also on these, on having a balanced budget, on having a good R&D, on having a strong culture, infrastructure, and obviously security. And another thing that games do really well is learning. And I'm not talking about educational software, I'm talking about how you achieve learning and confidence about what you learned. So at one point, the game throws you like a small sword. And you get comfortable with it, but at one point the enemies, they don't respond to your short sword anymore, so they manage to parry the attacks, or you're not strong enough, but then you need to learn how to master a new weapon, or a better one. And you see the effects. Maybe this time the sword has fire damage. So you can see how you can work with this step by step, and the game gives you confidence in each step. So this is a very powerful tool to create confidence in every process, in every learning process. So right now, I'm at the beginning of a game. I completely suck. I don't know how to operate the controller. But towards the end of the game, I am at least expert in one martial art, in one type of sword fighting, or I'm getting really good with a bow. So step by step, games create confidence in the things that you learned. And obviously, creative problem solving and out-of-the-box thinking, especially games that are puzzle-like, for example, the Talos principle, or even platformers, they stimulate you in order to find different solutions to the problem. All right, so having said that, to wrap up, games usually create these feelings in the players that they have, in their players. So first of all is agency. So that would be the sense of control and the impact of your decisions. Then there is engagement, the fact that you can play for hours. It's not about addiction, it's about the way that they are designed and the way that you enter this flow state in which you want to play, you want to explore, you want to find out more. Then there is empowerment, in which having completed a quest, or being, an almighty deity, or being a ruler of a galactic civilization gives you empowerment. And obviously, when you level up, you feel, you feel also this. And then accomplishment, whenever you complete a quest or a mission or maybe a round, this is the sense of accomplishment that the games give you. And curiosity, by putting a map in front of you of a fantasy land or maybe of a galaxy, it encourages you to explore, to find out more. So, how similar are you with your in-game avatar? That's an interesting question. For me, I have to say it's pretty similar, and I find it hard, for example, to play with civilizations in these games that eat their neighbors. It's fun, but still, at one point I want to have, a liberal democracy, and I want to have everybody happy, and, so I would say that my behavior in the game reflects some of the values that I share. On the other hand, some of the decisions I take in games might be similar with decisions that I take in real life. And the question is, how can you design experiences that feel the same way? And there are several things, several ideas that, I drew from this. So first of all, design for simplicity. Whatever process that you have, think of it as being real simple. And one of the examples of the games is Broforce. This is a new game. It looks like an old game, like an old platformer with pixel art, and it's so simple, and it's so much fun. Basically, it's really clear where you have to go. You have to go from left to right. You have to kill everything. Obviously, you kill terrorists, aliens, and Satan, because that's what you do. And it has all the pop culture references of action movies. The characters are, all the action characters that you loved in the 90s or maybe the 80s, but with bro in them. So there is Rambro, Robro Cup, so, And it's very easy. It's easy to play, easy to learn, tough to master, but it gives you a sense of simplicity. It's really easy what you have to do. The way to do it, or how do you approach it, it's your own option. The other thing is design for experience. So basically, think of the emotional experience of the games. This is one of the platformer games that are extremely beautiful, with extremely beautiful music and extremely amazing visuals. This is Ori and the Blind Forest. Or maybe such as games as Paper, Please, in which you are a guy who checks passports between the borders of two countries, and it's so dark, gray, and gloomy. But it's about the emotional experience or the experience of being that character. Design for emotion. These are things that games do that create positive or negative emotions throughout different interactions. And this is just a line of dialogue from one of the games that I played. This is Fallout 3. And this is quite fun. Like, after you go through a post-apocalyptic landscape, this is what you come across. So it's, they asked me how well I understood theoretical physics. I said I had a theoretical degree in physics, and they hired me. So make it entertaining, make it fun, create emotion throughout your processes. And design for learning. As I said, games are really good of creating learning and celebrating this. This is one of the games, I would say it's one of the games that I would play, endlessly. It's called The Witcher 3. I strongly recommend it. It's amazing. So basically, usually role-play games create this feeling of learning. So think about it. Taking all this, I'm just going to give you one small example. Think about how, for example, in your companies, onboarding processes, which usually are boring and standard, would involve these things. Would involve you designing your onboarding processes for emotion, for learning, and for a positive feeling of your new employee. Think about how you would design the relationship with your customers. in order to create this. Think about how do you design the relationship with your coworkers. Or maybe how do you design a product that respects these principles in order to create an amazing interaction. You can do it. And it's easy, really easy to start playing games. How many people have played games here? Oh, you're fine. Okay. It's okay. You don't need any advice on this one. All right. So, having said that, I hope that taking from your gameplay experience and knowing what you enjoyed there, it's really easy to take from there and move it into a different experience. And what's really good is that games don't try too hard. They're just like that. It's within their nature. So try to make your own processes and your own experiences that you design. Don't try too hard, but make them friendly towards the player, towards the user that wants to engage with you. So, thank you very much. This was my intervention for this morning. And if you have any questions, you need mics?